My uncle sold my grandfather's business behind my back. He didn't know I owned the company. My name is Ethan Walker. I am 32 years old, and for most of my life, I believe my family business would always stay in the family. My grandfather built that company from nothing. A small repair shop in a quiet neighborhood. One customer at a time. One honest deal at a time. He spent 40 years creating something that represented our family name. And before he passed away, he made one final decision. He trusted me to protect it. But my uncle didn't know that, because everyone in my family thought I was just the quiet grandson, the one who stayed behind the scenes, the one who handled paperwork, the one who never wanted attention. They had no idea that my grandfather had prepared me for exactly what happened next. When my grandfather started the business, he had nothing. No investors, no connections, just a toolbox, an old truck, and a belief that if you treated people honestly, they would come back. And they did. Over the years, that small repair shop became a successful equipment company. My grandfather never cared about becoming rich. He cared about building something people could trust. My father worked beside him for years. But after my father passed away, my uncle Marcus became the person everyone looked to. Marcus was older, more confident, more outspoken, the kind of person who walked into a room and acted like he already owned it. I was different. I liked numbers, contracts, planning. I preferred listening over talking. Because of that, my family underestimated me. They thought Marcus was the natural successor. And honestly, I let them think that. Before my grandfather passed, he called me into his office. The same office where he kept his old tools and handwritten business notes. He placed a folder on the desk. Then he said, I didn't understand what he meant at the time. Then he handed me the documents. Inside was something I never expected. A majority ownership agreement. My grandfather had transferred controlling shares of the company to me. Not Marcus. Not anyone else. Me. He explained that he watched everyone carefully over the years. He knew who cared about the business and who cared about control. He told me, protect what we built. I promised him I would. After his funeral, everything changed. Marcus started making decisions without consulting anyone. He changed suppliers. He fired long-time employees. He started talking about modernizing the company. At first, I stayed quiet. I wanted to give him a chance. But then I noticed something. The numbers weren't adding up. Money was disappearing. Contracts were being signed without proper review. And valuable company assets were being discussed without side buyers. When I questioned him, he laughed. Ethan, you handle paperwork. Leave business decisions to people who understand business. That sentence stayed with me, because he didn't just underestimate me. He completely forgot who I was. One morning, I received a message from an employee. It was a photo, a meeting invitation. The subject line said, Company Acquisition Discussion. Marcus was planning to sell the business. The company my grandfather built. The company employees spent decades protecting. He was going to sell it for his own profit, and he was doing it without telling me. I didn't confront him immediately. I didn't walk into his office angry. I didn't create a family argument, because anger makes people careless. And Marcus was already making enough mistakes. I started reviewing every document, every contract, every financial transaction, and slowly I discovered the truth. Marcus wasn't just trying to. He had promised buyers control over a business he didn't fully own. He thought nobody could stop him, but he forgot one important thing. The person he ignored was the person holding the controlling shares. 3 days later, Marcus invited the family to dinner. He was excited. He announced that he had found a buyer. He talked about how much money everyone would receive. Everyone congratulated him. Everyone except me. Then he looked at me and smiled. Ethan, maybe now you'll understand why big decisions should be made by experienced people. I placed a folder on the table, and I said, You're right, Marcus. Everyone looked at me. Big decisions should be made by people who actually have the authority to make them. His smile disappeared. The room became completely silent. My uncle Marcus looked at the folder on the table. Then he looked back at me. For the first time in years, I saw something I had never seen before. Uncertainty, because Marcus was used to controlling every conversation. He was used to people agreeing with him. He was used to being the person with the answers. But that night, he realized something. He wasn't the person holding the most power. What is this? Marcus asked. His voice was different now. Not confident. Careful. I opened the folder. Inside were copies of the ownership agreements, shareholder records, and legal documents signed by my grandfather before his death. I placed them on the table one by one. This is the company ownership structure. Marcus picked up the first page. His eyes moved across the document, then stopped, because there it was. My name, the majority shareholder, the controlling owner, the person with final approval over any major company decision. Everyone around the table looked confused. My aunt asked, Ethan, what does this mean? I answered calmly. It means Marcus cannot sell the company. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Marcus laughed. A nervous laugh. You're joking. I shook my head. No. He looked at my mother, then my aunt, then back at me. You? He pointed at the papers. You were the owner this whole time? I nodded. Yes. And that was the moment everything changed. Because suddenly all those years of being ignored made sense. The person they thought was just handling paperwork was the person who had been protecting everything. Marcus became angry, not because he cared about the company, because he lost control. He started accusing me of hiding information. He said I betrayed the family. He said my grandfather should have told everyone. But I stopped him. No, Marcus, you're upset because you didn't know. That's different. The truth was simple. My grandfather didn't hide the ownership because he wanted to hurt anyone. He did it because he knew exactly what would happen if the wrong person had control. The next morning, I contacted the potential buyer. I requested a meeting. When they arrived, Marcus was already there. He still believed he could explain everything. He walked into the room expecting to finalize the deal. Instead, he found the company's legal team waiting. The buyer's representative looked at him and said, "We reviewed the ownership documents." Marcus froze. Then the representative continued, "You do not have authority to complete this acquisition." The confidence disappeared from Marcus's face, because for the first time, someone outside the family was seeing what I had already seen. He had built an entire deal on something he didn't own. The investigation that followed revealed even more. Marcus had been using company money for personal expenses. He had approved unnecessary contracts. He had pressured employees to support. He was willing to sacrifice for one payday. A few weeks later, Marcus came to my office. The same office where my grandfather used to sit. He looked tired, older, different. He didn't come to apologize at first. He came to negotiate. "Ethan, we can fix this." I looked at him. "Fix what?" He paused. "The situation." I smiled slightly. "Marcus, this wasn't a situation. This was a choice." That sentence stayed with him. Because it was true. Everyone makes mistakes. But Marcus didn't accidentally try to sell the company. He made a decision. He believed nobody would challenge him. He believed quiet meant weak. He believed respect came from position. But he learned something important. A title does not create authority. Trust does. Months later, I became the official CEO of the company. Not because I wanted the title, because someone needed to protect what my grandfather built. I kept many of the employees Marcus wanted to remove. I restored the values my grandfather believed in: honesty, quality, respect. The company continued growing, but this time without someone trying to turn it into a personal bank account. My family relationship with Marcus never became the same. And maybe it shouldn't have, because forgiveness does not mean pretending nothing happened. It means accepting what happened and choosing how you move forward. I still visit my grandfather's office sometimes. His old toolbox is still sitting in the corner. The same toolbox he carried when he started everything. And every time I look at it, I remember his words. People will respect the loudest person in the room, but the quiet person usually sees the most. For years, my uncle thought I was just the person handling paperwork. He never realized I was the person holding the entire company together. And the biggest mistake he made was underestimating the person who was quiet. A year later, the company was stronger than it had ever been. The employees who once felt ignored finally had a voice. The people who dedicated decades to the business were respected again. And most importantly, my grandfather's dream remained alive. Many people asked me if I regretted keeping my ownership secret from my family. I thought about it for a long time. The answer was no, because sometimes people reveal their true intentions when they think there are no consequences. If Marcus had known I had control, he would have acted differently. But I needed to know what he would do when he believed nobody could stop him. And that answer told me everything. I didn't lose a family member because of what happened. I simply learned who truly valued the family legacy and who only valued what they could take from it. The biggest lesson my grandfather left me wasn't about business. It was about people. Never judge someone by how loudly they speak. Never assume the quiet person has no power, because sometimes the person standing in the background is the one protecting everything everyone else takes for granted.